organizational meeting of the Anson County Board of Commissioners. At this time, please observe a moment of silence in remembrance of former Anson County Sheriff's Office retired Major Walter Milton Pegram, Jr. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the election of the chairman and vice chairman. And at this time, I'd like to ask if there are any nominations for chairman.
I nominate Mr. Woodburn.
Commissioner Mims nominates Jarvis Woodburn. Is there a second?
Second.
We have 3 seconds, Ms. Cannon. All of the rest of the board members. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of Jarvis Woodburn as chairman, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Next, are there any nominations for vice chairman?
I nominate Commissioner Robert Mills.
Second.
Ms. Sturdivant nominates Mr. Mims, and Mr. Gatewood seconds that motion. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of Robert Mims for vice chairman, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Congratulations to Chairman Woodburn and to Vice Chairman Mims. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
If everyone will just allow us a couple minutes to get everything back in order, we'll resume the meeting.
Okay, I thank everyone. I appreciate your vote of confidence. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda by the commissioners.
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Before we got, anybody have anything to add on the commissioner concerns, petitions, announcements, and comments? Which I have one, the Caraway Foundation funding request. Add that. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, the 2020 census, just an update on our challenge of the numbers.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, at this time, we will need a motion to approve the agenda with the additions.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, seconded by Commissioner Sturdivant to approve the agenda with the additions. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. It is unanimous. The agenda is approved. Next item is item 3, the consent agenda. And as you see, we have quite a few items there, so I'm not going to go through all of them like I normally do because we've got a fairly lengthy agenda tonight. So at this time, we will need a motion to disposition the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Gatewood, seconded by Commissioner Sturdivant, Commissioner Mims to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. It is unanimous. The consent agenda is approved. Okay, and just before we get to public addresses of the board, I did overlook the Ethics statements is in accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, General Statute 138A. It is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any undue participation in the particular matter involved. Anyone having a conflict?
I do, Mr. Chairman. It's under the manager's report under 8C.
Okay. Okay, let the record show that Commissioner Mims has stated that he does have a conflict of interest, and that's under the manager's report, item 8C. Okay. And now we're ready for public addresses to the board, and we have several people signed up, so just a reminder that we have 3 minutes per speaker, and that reminder commissioners that we're not to comment on any matters brought to the board at this time, and we will assign those actions to the county manager. Okay, Mr. Mark Brody, Representative Mark Brody, glad to have you.
Thank you. I don't know if it's permissible to take off the mask while I'm speaking.
Yes, sir.
Permit? Okay. Also, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, and Mr. Allen. I've got a prop, with your permission, I'd like to show you. It's something I've never done before, but I'll tell you what, I've worked really, once you see it, I worked really hard to do this for Anson County. I don't know if you can see it. Mr. Chairman, this is a check for $12,240,000 that will be used for Anson County, Anson AEDC, and the volunteer fire departments in Anson County. And the reason why I brought this, and I say I worked very hard on this, is I knew from when I first took office in 2013, actually, I said that Anson County is in the right place and the right time for economic growth. As I learned, there's one peg missing, which was the ability to do it. And so over the years, especially in the beginning, you're a first-time legislature. You get to sit at the kids' table a lot of times and work your way to the grown-up table. And so over the years, I've kept on pressuring to get some money to Anson County for economic development. Well, this time come around, and once again, I pushed it really hard, and this time we got it. This accounts for $8 million in economic development funds for construction of whatever economic development you wish to do. It's $4 million for, and mind you, these are grants, $4 million for the sewer and water project in the new Atlantic Gateway project, the industrial park. And then for almost every time I try to get money for the volunteer fire departments. I know they have a struggle to be able to raise funds to get extra equipment, etc. And I was able to get $30,000 each for the 8 volunteer fire departments. The $30,000 is, just so you know, it has its significance that you can get a matching grant up to $30,000. So I maxed that out. So each of the Anson County volunteer fire departments, includes Wastewater, will be able to match, get about $60,000 to proceed ahead. And you'll have to forgive me, I didn't set the time, so give me about 30 seconds when I'm out of time. But I wanted to go through a couple other things that are pretty important in the budget. Somebody left their glasses, I thought they were mine. Yeah.
$12 million,
Yeah. The other thing is that there are funds for the schools, and I know you're looking forward to addressing the middle school issue. And we do have that fund in particular is to make up the balance of what you need, should be available to you. Now, the key to it is you've got to be at least starting moving forward, but I understand you are, so I'll help as much as I can doing that. The other thing in the budget is a $50 million, would be a $50 million recurring for schools repair and renovations. $50 million, but the key to it is that what they were telling me is this is divided by 100. It's not Mecklenburg and Wake get the bulk and you get a little piece of it. That's a $500,000 each in school funding, repair, and renovation. It'll come to Anson County every year, unless the General Assembly future ones changes it. There's also a low wealth fund that was developed for specifically schools that have a hard time getting and retaining teachers. In this case, there's about $938,000 that will come to Anson County. And that's sort of the key to it is it divided by X amount of teachers. It's about 3,500, 3,800, something like that for each teacher. This is supposed to be used so you can recruit and retain teachers to come in Anson County. A county like Union gets about $600 a piece, so you can see it's directed heavily towards Anson County and the low wealth. In the budget also is $5.5 million for SBCC in capital. I would recommend strongly, and I'll fight on your side, to get a good portion of that to go to Anson part of SBCC. Sometimes it gets forgotten a little bit, and I think it's time to step out. The other one is there is broadband funding. We did some stopgap funding. It's in the tune of billions of dollars for broadband expansion in Anson County, and also would recommend that you pursue that. The other thing I wanted to, and of course teachers in particular, and I'll pretty much end this unless you have questions, there's salary increases, there's bonuses, and there's bonuses on top of bonuses. So that'll all be coming to the teachers, as well as a minimum wage of $15 an hour for school personnel. That's not just, that's all a minimum for the others. So at that, I will, it's a big budget here, 700 pages. So I haven't it all memorized. I don't have it all memorized, I should say, but if you have any questions, otherwise I thank you very much. If you mind, I could turn that thing around so you can see what I'm doing here. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Representative Brody. We appreciate all that you do for Anson County. You're visible, you're here, you're always interested in what we need, and we know that you go to that for us, and this is evidence of that tonight. So thank you very much.
Okay, if you see me stepping out after, I want to listen to Superintendent's presentation on the middle school, but then I have another appointment later on.
Understand.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Mr. Bobby Johnson.
Thank you, sir, and good evening. Mr. Allen, my apologies, and I appreciate your help, sir. I was returning home from a family gathering during Thanksgiving holidays. I was attacked by a monstrous and sickening odor and rotting garbage and extremely strong acidic odor that caused my eyes to water and my sinuses to burn. As I think of the many problems that Anson County is contending with today, I think of the impact that these problems are having on my family, friends, and community. When my family is exposed to dangerous landfill gases and unknown poisonous particles, I become very distressed and angry at everyone that has a part in permitting such a catastrophe occurrence to happen to the people I love. As this environment covers the entire community in which I live, my only choices are: one, to accept the fact that my local government is poisoning and torturing my family. 2, move to a safer location. Or 3, fight the unforgivable actions of the elected leadership that have allowed this monstrous catastrophe to happen and continue unabated. My decision is the latter. The flight or fight concept has only one option in this case, and that is to fight. This is the first article in an ongoing production of my composition entitled The Great Anson County Landfill and Poisonous Gas Production Company. Also, in the ordinance that apparently is not finished, Vision 2040, there is an error on page 4, I believe it's page 4, on the steering committee. You have Leroy Mcgill as owner of Anson Real Estate and Insurance Company. That is incorrect. That company belongs to my sister-in-law, Mary Taylor. Leroy has no part in that whatsoever. That should be changed. Also, the franchise agreement with Chambers states that Anson County is to receive a 1/8 royalty from any methane that's pumped out of that landfill. To my understanding, that is in process at the moment. I'm not sure of the finishing date. Just wanting to remind you that Chambers does not own all the methane in that landfill. So I would encourage you to look into this and make sure that Anson County gets its fair share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, next we have John Merrick and Ms. Deneen Rowlett.
Well, good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Allen. We were here this evening to talk to you, to share the good news that Representative Brody has already shared, that we have received a total of $12 million for projects in Anson County, for economic development projects in Anson County, and we, our board has, the board which Janine is chairman of, has approved some projects moving forward, and we've already really started on those. The first, which Representative Brody mentioned, will be the extension of the sewer line to the Atlantic Gateway Logistics Park, just east of Lylesville. And the second project, which we're hoping to kick off sometime in mid-2022, will be the construction of a shell building at the Wadsboro Industrial Park. Once that building is completed and sold to a company that's going to bring jobs and investment to Anson County, we will begin construction on a second shell building, most likely at the Atlantic Gateway Logistics Park. We just wanted to make you aware of those items, and thank you very much for your support of economic development in Anson County. Representative Brody is right. He has worked very, very hard to make this happen. And but I think that you deserve some credit too for having the foresight to put a strong economic development program in place and give the legislature reason to have confidence that we will spend this money well and we'll get a great return on investment for the state's money. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate what you all are doing for economic development. Great job. Okay, Reverend Michael McLeod.
I didn't even put Reverend McLeod down there. I think I put Michael there.
That's what you put, but I always respect.
I leave the glasses, they on my eyes. Again, wanna appreciate all of you. Jarvis, former PTA president, man of integrity. I remember, Mr. Lawrence, you asked me to serve on a committee, so I know you wanted me to be involved. I was hoping that Dr. Sims was here. He gave me my first opportunity, put me up at Wadsboro Elementary. It was Wadsboro Middle then, and I guess I did a good job and whatnot. But I come to you with something on my heart, and I know I looked around and saw all these school personnel, and I said they probably think they talked to me, but I didn't talk to any of them, because I know that we have a middle school project on board. But my dream has always been a high school. The kids that can't go anywhere need a high school. They need a high school. I can remember in a playoff game when we were playing and the opponents kind of laughed at our gym floor. We playing volleyball or whatnot, and how bad the high school volleyball gym was. And I always know how these kids go to these schools and they have no dreams. They have no dreams. There's a quote that they say, and it's, I am not what I think of me. I'm not what you think of me. I am what I think you think of me. Let that resonate. I am what I think you think of me. And for 42 years, that high school and those kids going in there, I don't know if we're thinking very much about our kids. The reason, as I said, for a high school, some people can move their kids anywhere they want to. I'm here to advocate for the least of me. My morning scripture came from Matthew 25:40. The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. High school. You know, you might do a middle school. I might never see a high school. Been here 42 years. But I still think that's the epitome. That's the glamour. That's the thing. I heard economic comments. We can stop kidding ourselves. We know that what's drawing us down is the economics, is the academics. They'll say we level 1, level. I've been there. Know that. Thank you for your concern. Thank you for listening to me. Nobody else may never want a high school, but I still want us to have a high school. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Reverend. And forgive me, I've been trying to make the name out after Reverend McLeod. And whoever signed up number 5, you remember who you are? It looks like H.E.
Oh, that was an error. I was signing in. I'm used to signing in to my staff development. I want to be accounted for.
That's right.
There you are.
Superintendent McGill.
It's you.
Ma'am, no, I'm saying that was the error. I just
Oh, okay.
saw the paper and I signed
Okay,
in.
okay.
That's
I'll remember what this signature looks like in the future.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next person is Mr. Randy Baker, if I've got that right.
I just followed,
Okay.
but I will be up.
I understand, all right. And now we're ready for appearances. And first on the docket, we have Mr. David Williams on countywide zoning ordinance summary. Mr. Williams. Mr. Newton's involved in that. He's actually leading this project, so we'll hear from him.
Yes. Tonight we have the Ability Development Group here to bring you a report on the status of a countywide zoning project. They're here tonight, David and Michael and Cherie. He'll do a further introduction with them. They're also here to answer any questions that you might have about the draft ordinance that has been posted on the internet. I hope you reviewed it. Actually, it's on the home page. You won't have to thumb through the planning department and all to find it. We have just completed phase 1 of the project for countywide zoning. Actually, the project was the drafting of that ordinance. Phase 2 is coming up. We actually finished phase 1 October, November. Phase 2 is beginning first of the year. in January, from the ordinances to the mapping and the placing of the zoning districts on the map. That's where we'll be working after the first of the year. David has a PowerPoint. I won't go through the timeline that this is going to take place, but it'll be sometime midsummer, maybe even late summer before that portion of the project is completed. David and his team, and I'll say this, and it's been mentioned before, they have a lot of information, and they're following the 2040 Comprehensive Use Plan that was adopted here earlier in the year. They've got input from the planning board, they've got input from the steering committee, and they've got citizens across the county that have attended 10 open houses that we've had at 5 different locations, and they've been surveys taken at those locations. So they have a lot of information that they're putting together to move us forward with this project. We have a PowerPoint, David does, and I won't go into any other detail, and I'm going to ask, if you will, just to hold your questions to the end of the PowerPoint, because many of your questions may be answered in other words through the viewing of the PowerPoint. David?
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to take this mask off so I can communicate. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. Glad to be here tonight. Again, David Williams with the Ability Development Group. Also, this project is in conjunction with Gardner-Webb University. So I do have a PowerPoint to show you. I did want to mention to you tonight, I do have a couple of my colleagues with me. Mr. Michael Sandy, he is my senior planner, and he is the chief co-writer. And we also have Cherie Jazar, who is also both are professional planners who's here tonight with me, and she is the chief facilitator. So if you came out to the public input meeting, she handled that part of it. Michael handled the zoning part. I'll handle the overall part. So, Mr. Chairman, if we can put the PowerPoint. And while that's going on, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, what we're going to do is kind of give you a summary update of where we are, kind of going back and then coming forward. And we don't want to be in front of you too long, but we certainly want to be intentional about where we are in the process. I'll probably need some help moving it forward. I'm not sure. But we certainly want to be intentional about the project and make sure that we cover all our bases, and that, again, like Larry said, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to take those. Okay. Yes, sir.
Got a clicker right here. Fast forward to the slide. Right there.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, also the public, this slide is basically about doing research in terms of where zoning is currently in North Carolina, especially in this region. And that pink stands out. And the information that we're presenting to you tonight, we actually presented it also at the 10 input meetings, so the community is quite aware. This information has also been communicated on the county's website and a number of venues to make sure the public had an opportunity to have a chance to examine what we're doing. So all the counties in kind of greenish gray, those counties have countywide zoning. Anson has it, obviously, as you know, a portion of it. But we want to make sure that when we communicate to the public what was the existing condition in terms of zoning in this particular area. We also wanted to kind of span out a little bit in terms of North Carolina research around the state. The counties in red are counties that do not have countywide zoning. The counties in blue do. And just wanted to point out so you can see in terms of where Anson County stands, not only from a regional perspective, but also from a statewide perspective. Those counties that do not have zoning are white, and those counties are predominantly in the mountains and also on the coast. The last county to adopt zoning happened in January of 2019, and that was Warren County. and Pointer is up here, Warren County, and they appointed and they adopted zoning, and it was 7-0 vote with the Board of Commissioners at that time. As Larry has stated earlier, typically when you have before you get into zoning, you want to have a land use plan. And so my charge with the project is make sure that the guiding principles, the goals and objectives of the land use plan, we try to follow those and make sure there's a connection between the land use plan and the zoning ordinance. Because your zoning ordinance is going to be the tool to implement the land use plan. So the first part's done with the commission back in April of this year to adopt the land use plan. Now the second process is to look at the consideration for a zoning ordinance countywide. I won't get into those colors. Most of those in green, the green is more rural, agricultural, residential type land use pattern. I do want to make a distinction. This is not a zoning map, it's a land use map. In terms of context, how do we get here? Board of County Commission, in terms of direction to the County Manager's Office, to the Planning Board, all the way down to the Steering Committee. Also, I want to leave Larry at Planning Director as well. Work with the Steering Committee, who is the lead on this in terms of charge to see this. We've been working with them since February. And Larry mentioned the community input surveys. Those surveys was done with a critical mass of people at those forums. We've gotten those surveys back, those results, and we've been able to actually incorporate them with our process as we're writing the ordinance. So that information has been obtained in terms of data. Here's some of the questions that we had. It was an eight item survey, a qualitative, open-ended survey that we basically wanted to find about the opinions from the community in terms of zoning countywide and what it meant. There were some specific questions about economic development in terms of commercial development. What do you think about it in terms of property values? How would zoning countywide impact property values? So I won't get into details on those questions, but this is a sample of the survey that we sent out and that we received comment back. In terms of the timeline, like Larry said, we're still in phase 1 where we're concluding phase 1. And but we did want to point that we've done that. We've had 20 input meetings, and there's been a lot of work in between those meetings. Round of applause to the steering committee and those committed to send this through. So there's been a lot of work outside of the input meetings. I would draw your attention. I would add that you also had 20 input meetings, I believe, with the land use plan. So you put those together, that's 20 input meetings in terms of planning and zoning. Phase 2 is what we'll be starting around January, and that is the mapping phase of it, where we look what's on the ground and see what the existing uses are, working with the tax department to find out what the uses are so we can begin to create a zoning map. You couldn't get to the zoning map until you completed phase 1 of the zoning ordinance, because it basically dictated new zoning districts. Phase 3, like Larry mentioned, phase 2, we'll be wrapping that up around March, April, July, June-ish, somewhere. Phase 3 is where it would come to the commission for adoption consideration, and that is to be determined, but between county commission and also county management in terms of when they would like to bring that up to the public. But there will have to be a public hearing involved with that prior to any of the new ordinance and mapping being adopted. And we did want to basically, like I said, be intentional and let you know these are the areas that Larry was talking about geographically that we've been around in the county. Morven down at Holler, Lowesville, over at the Lowesville Fire Department. We also was in Polkton at South Piedmont Community College. And I also went to the northwest area in Burnsville, the Burnsville Fire Department, and also Ansonville at the PD Life Refuge. Those indicate the July and August and October meetings, which they add up to 10. And just so you have some input, we have pretty good turnout at each input meeting. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Michael Sandy. He's going to go over the zoning part.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Management, thank you for having me here tonight. Part of this process in adopting the zoning ordinance, as you well know, with a partial county zoning, you have different zoning districts. So we went through the existing zoning ordinance, matched up with what you existing have, plus we added some other districts to make it a simple ordinance to understand, interpret, and enforce. And we kind of coined the term zoning light to make it easy and understandable. So you see on the left, the first 4 districts are residential districts. The next 3 are commercial business districts. We have 2 industrial districts and a planned employment center district for mixed use. We have the districts here, and it spelled out the requirements for each district and lot sizes. Also did acreage of some of those to make it easy to understand and follow for the residential districts. We did add a little incentive for extension of utilities for developers if they want to come and do residential development. Give them a little bit of incentive to extend those utilities as Anson County provides water and sewer. We have the lot setbacks, lot widths, lot heights, and other similar requirements for each district. I don't know if I skipped this. This one? Okay. Bonafide farmers is one of the topics that we heard a lot about from the meetings at each of the sites around the county. Farm protection, farming is a very big industry in Anson County, and it will continue to be for many, many years. State law has a lot of protection for bonafide farms. Bonafide farms means a true active farm. So of those things, if you qualify for that, be a bonafide farm, you're exempt from most land use regulations in any zoning ordinance. Am I doing that wrong? Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Non-conformings was uses or grandfathering was a lot of the topics we needed to cover at the meetings. A lot of questions like what's going to happen if we have an existing business and it winds up being zoned RA out in rural areas. We talked about how those non-conforming lots and uses and structures can continue in operation indefinitely within the bounds of the ordinance. If they change from a different use, you will have to follow the ordinance with the guidance with that through Larry Newton's office as planning director. We had a lot of discussion about land use, sensitive land uses. I think we heard one of those tonight being landfills, how to deal with those, cell towers, ATV tracks, race tracks. All these would require public hearing. Adult uses, gun shooting ranges, solar farms, wind farms, campgrounds, and gambling games of chance. All those would require a public hearing through the proposed zoning ordinance. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission? Okay. Not hearing any questions from the board of commissioners, so we thank you, Mr. Williams. We appreciate your presentation and look forward to continuing working with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Have a good evening.
Okay, Superintendent McLean, the new middle school project.
Good evening. I'm here before you today to give you an update on the middle school construction project. I have been working closely with Mr. Allen, and we invited Mr. Allen to several of our board members' meetings because we wanted to, each phase we go through, we wanted to make sure that we are in collaboration and open transparency on where we are with the project. This evening, I would like for the Pimlico architecture firm, Mr. Randy Baker and Dr. Watson, to give a quick update and also future needs of the project to keep it going.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. May take this off. Chairman Wardman, members of the board, Mr. Allen. On behalf of Pinnacle Architecture, we appreciate you guys letting us present tonight. With me, we've got Dr. Watson and Frank Williams, my partner. What we did about a couple of weeks ago, we presented to the school board an overall proposed site plan and with the existing school. And I've got a PowerPoint if I don't know where to plug it in, or we do have some drawings. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Carolyn, let's grab those two. You want a drawing? You want drawings? What are you gonna do with it?
Well, this might be hard for them to see. And point.
Let's just see what goes on. I think you can see it up here. I'll get this video.
We have an easel back there.
We might do that. Let's see if this.
It's right there, man. See it? I haven't met you. I'm Frank Williams. I'm the old man of the firm. That's a good start. I'm gonna hold it. No signal.
Please try. Please try.
Can you blow that up?
That's what.
There you go.
Okay, can everyone see that on your screen? And I don't know if the pointer will point to, you can see this. But up in the right-hand corner, this is Scheme A. That's your existing high school. The black line that you see here is the middle school property that we had to work with. The school that you see in the center is the new middle school, football field, baseball, softball, and a soccer practice field. The building will fit on the existing site for the middle school. However, with this proposed scheme, there is an existing blue line stream that runs right down the middle of this property. Basically, it drains from the high school all the way back down through here. With the blue line stream, we cannot build over that area. And the only thing you can do with that is actually build a bridge across it. So with that, and you can see how tight these areas are in the parking area. With this, we were told if additional property is needed, then maybe we could ease on to maybe some adjacent property. Frank, you got something else to
No, you're
say
doing a
about
good
that?
job, man.
All right.
You can keep on going.
All right, can we go to the second? Let's see if I can go to the second scheme. All right, Scheme B. With this presentation, you can see the existing high school. The middle school has actually been moved up the hill away from this blue line stream, but it encroaches on the adjacent property, and I think the county commissioners own these two parcels of land. If you can see this existing white line, that encroaches into the existing, the adjacent property, which is about 18 to 20 acres of the parcel. This layout here will better serve the school system. It's more up on the top of the hill. We will eliminate anything going across that blue line stream. And then also, it will allow traffic to come back on the road and get away from the high school. Frank, any questions with that? We do have a wetlands issue right here that we're trying to stay away from, and we do have the entrance road, which is on the existing middle school property, as you see here. Questions or comments? With this proposal here, since we do have a finite budget for this middle school, this Scheme B would better serve the middle school as opposed to trying to shrink and compact the middle school down in this lower area. And this is basically the top of the area, and it falls back down to that blue line.
And I will say this, the layout of Scheme A, which you saw earlier, just gets all of the elements on the property. None of the fields are oriented in the correct way. The traffic is we can't come off of Highway 74. We have to come through and around the baseball fields. There you see that It just was, it was not a happy solution, and it would not, we had the fields, we had the playing fields, as you can see, are away from the dressing areas on the middle school. Randy showed where the dressing areas are there. And then the fields are away from that, so it just wasn't a happy solution. It just got everything on a piece of property. If we can relax it, 18 to 20 acres, and move it up the hill, you can see how the orientation of the football field and the baseball fields and how they are located. Show again, Randy, where the dressing areas are. They're located right at the dressing areas, and it also gives a lot better traffic circulation, so that the buses and the parents can get closer to the school and the extracurricular activities. It also allows, which we didn't get in the first scheme, it allows a football practice field. We did not have that in the first scheme, which meant that the football team would have to practice on the playing field, which, you know, that is not a good situation there. So it does, Randy, show where that football practice field, right there. This also minimizes the grading. The grading on the first scheme would be a tremendous cost to grade all those fields down, because it's not in a good place. But when we move it up the hill there, we take advantage of the topography, and we can, our buildings and our fields lay out better.
One additional, this is the location of the existing farmland, just to orient you a little bit better. Yes.
My name is Dr. Jim Watson, and I am not an architect, but I'm a former superintendent, and I've worked with Pinnacle Architecture for the past 14 years in assisting educational programming. Just some reminders, this school is 126,000, the proposed school is 126,000 square feet, and it has a core capacity of 800. Superintendent McLean and I met one afternoon and took the staffing at the current middle school and literally placed teachers in every location that they would projected to be, and we have space for future growth. Again, I know y'all talked a lot about economic development tonight, and you know, who knows, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but the idea is that we're planning for the future to have additional capacity if needed. It is designed for grades 6, 7, and 8.
Any questions, comments?
Basically, we would respectfully request the commission to consider granting 18 to 20 additional acres, so we could get this school designed the way it should be, and designed the way it'll be a lasting, it'll just be something that is lasting for the county, and one of the best middle schools in the state. I like to say it's the best, but I won't go that far, but I'd say it's one of the best.
Okay. Questions from the commission?
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
What about in having the middle school a little farther away from the high school? Is that usually a better thing, to have that space in between?
Right. One of the things that Mr. Williams and Mr. Baker, when they placed this, it takes the school further down Anson County High School Road, which would help with congestion. So that's a big plus. But it's always good to have some space. Again, high school expansion down the road, it allows for a bigger footprint to be there for whatever future growth might happen, either middle school or high school.
Okay, anyone else?
One thing about relocating the school also, it allows a large area there on the high school side of the creek to be developed for future development of the high school. And we heard the gentleman talk about the high school tonight, And one of these days, the high school will be a reality. We all know that. And you've got room on that site to make that happen.
Okay. Thank you all for your presentation. And at this time, I hope that we as a board will be able to make a decision on granting the property. But there's a couple of things that I don't know if the Board of Commissioners are aware of, and that is the axe facility is supposed to go in that same area, and there's some more information that's needed. The county manager is working on that, and should have it done this month sometime, and he will bring it back to us, and at that time we will know the full impact of granting this property and the impact on the axe facility.
Mr. Chairman, not only the axe facility, but also the proposed DSS building would go in that space next to the armory,
Yes,
just
sir.
north of the armory.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. McGill. When I think right now it's more so on the axe facility than DSS, but you're right, that is correct. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, next we will hear from Ms. Rashonda Terry, report to the people, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Anson County Cooperative Extension.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Interim Manager Allen. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you on behalf of the Anson Extension staff to present our annual report to the people. Staff have continued to work hard and present new and inventive concepts to work with our clients. We have in your packets our video presentation along with an infographic of impacts that we made this past year. This report is North Carolina Extension's way for county staff to share our successes with the community. I hope you enjoy our presentation. I'm going to sit up front to the conclusion, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last 20 months have been challenging for all of us. It threw us for a loop and causing us to face some unique challenges. While perplexed, Anson Extension staff never stopped. We may have paused to regroup, but learned to adapt and go above and beyond the call of duty of our normal programming efforts. Staff used innovation and collaboration to reach out in a changing world and engage with non-traditional audiences to meet the needs of Anson County citizens while helping people improve the quality of their lives by providing research-based information and informal education opportunities focused on issues and needs. Agents were able to maintain continuing ed courses for producers, plant crop variety trials, work with other county agents on newsletters and informational directories on area-specific topics, and create educational videos that receive national news features. Programs for youth were created, such as virtual field trips, and statewide programming for youth was offered. Electronic materials were implemented to send out to clients for educational purposes, along with hosting programs while following our precautions, allowing youth the opportunity to expand their experiences. Innovation and creativity were the driving forces to continue to stay connected to clients, while also ensuring producers stayed protected while being on the front line during the peak of the pandemic. Making sure supplies were readily available gave them another level of protection in a career that doesn't stop for climate changes or COVID. Services were still ongoing to help citizens in cost-saving efforts, as well as helping youth and families ensure that food were in their homes. Adjudicated youth continued to complete hours, educational packets, and assist around the office while maintaining our precaution. Impacts on lives of youth and adults by teaching healthy habits while implementing mental health and physical health strategies were being executed to individuals in 6 counties across the state through virtual fitness and nutrition programming. With all the planning and adaptation, we learned that our programs become stronger by collaborating with one another. A total of 12 new partnerships were formed this year and allowed us to reach more audiences, expand topics, and outreach. This performance exemplifies the outstanding characteristics of the definition of an extension professional. The passion and creativity of our staff has allowed us to bring out our best. Even with implementing new techniques, having a passion to service, and engaging audiences, staff were able to achieve a few noted accomplishments and recognition to further prove we are constantly reaching out to a changing world. Moving ahead, by no means will there ever be a going back to normal. We are reinventing our new normal and inviting others to enjoy this journey with us. Our accomplishments would mean nothing without the many people that assisted and joined us on our endeavors. We are all in this together. It is up to us to make it better.
Are there any questions from the board?
Any questions from commissioners to Ms. Terry?
Great presentation.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Thank you for your continued support also.
And we thank you for all that you all do. Okay, Ms. Lula Jackson, foster care and other funding.
Good evening, Commissioner Chair, Commissioners,
Good evening.
Mr. Allen. Thank you for your time this afternoon or this evening. I am here to make a request for $10,000 in additional foster care funding. The county currently provides foster care funding to assist the Department of Social Services when we have children that are in DSS custody, and we have to provide for needs for the children as they relocate. Sometimes they are taken or removed from their homes and they don't have their basic necessities that they need. On this year, we've had an occasion to work with a family that was involved with Child Protective Services, but because the father was able to collaborate with people in the community, there was not a need for the children to come into DSS custody. Again, the funds that we currently have, we use those funds for children that are in DSS custody. So the request is being made that we increase that funding and allow that funding to be used also for children that are not in DSS custody. Sometimes families, when we are involved in a Child Protective Services case and families make a placement agreement, there's the assumption that DSS has made the parent place the child, or that the children are being placed by Department of Social Services. And that's not always the case, but those families that receive those children look to Department of Social Services to provide funding to help with basic needs, to help with increase in utilities. When you have children that are in diapers, newborns that need formula, of course we work with Health Department through the WIC program. We work with Partnership for Children to try to help meet those basic needs, but there are always some costs that that families aren't necessarily able to incur. But the families are able to provide a placement to keep children together and to avoid them having to be placed in foster care outside of the county. So on tonight, I would like to request that $10,000 be added to the foster care other fund for Department of Social Services, and that those funds be allowed to be used for children that are not in Department of Social Services custody, as well as those that are.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I think we all realize the importance of keeping children with family when it's at all possible. So this time we need a motion to approve this action.
I second it.
A motion by Commissioner Gatewood, seconded by Commissioner Sturman to approve the adding the $10,000 to the foster care other line item. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. It is unanimous. The $10,000 will be added.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you for the great job you do.
Thank you.
Next, Dr. Thompson, COVID-19 update.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. I'm pleased to have Yvonne Burr with me tonight. As a reminder, Yvonne is our administrative officer. She's your preparedness coordinator, and she's our agency accreditation coordinator. She has over 20 years of service at the health department, and based on her experience, her service, I'm happy to tell you that the Board of Health appointed Yvonne Burr to serve as the interim health director for the county of Anson upon my retirement at the end of the month. She is eminently qualified to fill that role. Relative to where we're at with the pandemic, since it started, we've had 4,089 cases. Currently, 44 of those are active, and sadly, we've had 85 deaths. Putting some of that in perspective, in the month of November, we had 152 cases and 3 deaths. So about 5 per day. For the first week of December, we've had 38 cases, and so we're on that same about 5 per day where we're at right now. In North Carolina, about 7.7% of the people that are tested for COVID come back positive. In Anson County, over the last 2 weeks, we're at 6%. And we've been at about that level now for the last couple months. Relative to testing, Optum continues to test out at the old hospital parking lot. They're doing a great job. They're there Monday through Friday, and it's working really, really well. And so the health department, we're sort of out of the testing business and have turned that over to Optum. Our focus right now is on vaccinating. Currently in North Carolina, 58% of the population, the total state population, is fully vaccinated. In Anson County, we're at 44% fully vaccinated. We're doing some form of vaccinating 4 days a week. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, morning and afternoon, we're doing the first or second dose of the Moderna vaccine, and we're also doing the boosters. We've had a really robust demand for the booster shots, and if it's been at least 6 months since you've completed your first and second shot, if you're within the sound of my voice, I want to encourage you to get that booster. It's really important. We also can offer the booster if you've got the Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine, and it's been at least 2 months since you've had that. It's recommended that you go ahead and get the second shot, the booster, and we can offer that also. More recently, on Monday and Wednesday afternoon, we've started offering the Pfizer vaccine for our children ages 5 to 11. We are requiring that be by appointment and that the parent or legal guardian come with the child to give the required legal consent for that vaccine. I mentioned we had a little over 4,000 cases since this pandemic started. Surprisingly, at least to me, we've had an uptick in the number of cases in our younger age group. We've had 650 of those 4,000 cases are in people between the ages of birth and 17. We haven't had a lot of demand, maybe 5 to 7 per afternoon for the 5 to 11-year-old group. I would like to see more of those children vaccinated, and I say that for 3 reasons. First of all, it protects that individual child. It also protects his or her classmates and the school personnel that they come in contact throughout the day. And it also helps that the child vaccinated doesn't take that virus home to an elderly parent or grandparent. So I would like to encourage the younger age group, parents, adult guardians, to get their kids vaccinated. We also are starting to see an increase in the number of flu cases across the state. We're going into the December, January, February peak of the flu season, and we are offering the flu vaccines on Monday and Wednesday afternoon. Also, no appointment needed, walk-in. The Pfizer vaccine for the children 5 to 11, in addition to the health department, the children can get it at CVS, and Parsons is also offering it. Looking down the road, where do we go from here with this pandemic? And this is just Fred Thompson talking. It's clear to me that we will never get to 0 COVID. This virus is mutating. We have the Omicron variant now, the Delta variant, which is currently responsible for over 99% of our cases in the state. I think the virus will continue to mutate, and I think we'll move away from a pandemic to where it's just circulating in society all the time, sort of like the flu virus. And I think that probably within the next 6 months, Governor Cooper will probably at some point lift that state of emergency, and we'll be moving to ongoing mitigation measures. I think we'll see 1 or more pills, if you will, oral medications approved to help fight the virus. And I think that when certain milestones are reached, for example, less than 5% positive over a certain amount of time, then we'll start lifting the requirement for the indoor mask mandate. That's about where we're at, and we'd be happy to take your questions at this time.
Any questions for Dr. Thompson? Okay, hearing none, thank you, Dr.
All right.
Thompson, for all you do, and at this time we will recognize Ms. Burr.
Okay. On behalf of the Anson County Health Department, we would like to present Dr. Thompson with a plaque. He has served us for almost 8 years. He has been a wonderful health director, and we appreciate all he's done for us.
Thank you very much.
You want to take your picture?
Picture.
Picture.
Yvonne, I know you're gonna do a great job.
I will try my best to do what we can. We have a wonderful staff. We have just increased. We was able to hire for our nurse position, so we're up to full staff on nursing. Front desk staff was done, so we have 20 employees now, so we're doing great. So
Good job, good job.
thank you all very much.
Dr. Thompson, we thank you for all that you've done for healthcare in Anson County. You were here with the old hospitals down through the health department. So once again, thank you. Enjoy your retirement.
Madeline and I will be married 39 years next month.
All right,
And
congratulations.
somebody said, "Are you going to be moving when you retire?" And I said, "You know, we've been married 39 years and 27 of those have been here in Anson County. It is truly our forever home."
All right, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Glad to have you. All right, next item of business is the appointments, item 6. And we need to appoint a delegate and an alternate to the Central Carolina Regional Council. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that we appoint our chairman, Mr. Jarvis Woodburn, and Commissioner Lawrence Gable. Or can I do both of them?
Can?
Do one at a time and do after
You
that?
can do both of them. I don't see any reason not to do both of them.
Second.
If, okay, all right, Mr. Gate, would you accept the alternate position?
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion? We did, I didn't hear.
Yes, she made a motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Sturdivant, seconded by Commissioner Mims, to appoint myself as the delegate and Commissioner Gatewood as the alternate to the Central Carolina Regional Council. All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, a like sign. Motion carried, it is unanimous. Okay, item 7, administrative matters, policy changes. Ms. Ingram, our HR manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Good evening.
This evening I have 3 items that should be in your packet for you. The first item is regarding a recent law change from November. Previously, employees that came into county employment would have a 6-month waiting period to go in the retirement system. The only exception was local law enforcement and people that came here from other local government agencies, state as well. But effective December 1st, not everybody goes on the retirement system when they're hired. So in compliance with the law, we would like to change our personnel ordinance to match what we now have to do and also start the county's 3% 401 contribution. In your packet, in that green section, you'll see how the ordinance will be rewritten, and then down below is how it's currently set up. And then employees who previously had a waiting period also has the option now to buy back that time if they choose, and we add that in the ordinance to also outline how they can do that. Any questions?
Okay. Questions from the board? Okay, at this time, we would, do you have anything else, Ms. Ingram? We'll take action.
No, sir. That's it for item number 1.
Okay, we would need a motion to approve the policy changes per the HR manager's recommendation.
I second.
A motion by Commissioner Sturdivant, seconded by Commissioner Mims to make the policy changes recommended by the HR manager. Any further discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, a like sign. Motion carried, it is unanimous.
Okay, thank you. The second item, if the board chooses to take action, we recently discovered we haven't been consistent in how we apply the policy towards part-time employees and holiday pay. In some departments, the employees are hired part-time or hired just for like holidays and weekends, and they don't get compensated for the holiday other than the hours that they actually work. And in some of my other departments, they would get paid the hours that they work, or they might get holiday pay, or if they didn't work, they would get holiday. So looking at how the ordinance is currently written, they're supposed to work at least 20 hours to get the holiday pay, and we would like to be consistent with how we're doing the policy and being fair. So we haven't had time to properly research, so I have a proposal in there for you, or I can come back next month. The reason why we're bringing this now is because we have 2 more holidays coming up, so if you want to take action, we want to go ahead and give you something. The proposal is to only pay the part-time employees who actually work. So if they work, they would get the holiday hours that they work, plus kind of like the holiday pay. But if they don't work, then they wouldn't get compensated for the holiday. And that's if the board chooses to take action.
Let me ask, what research are you planning to do? Because you indicated you need to do some more research.
I was going to reach out to some other counties. I did look on the HR listserv, and that question came up, I want to say back in January, and the 4 responses that I saw, they only pay their part-time employees holidays that actually work. And then some of them didn't do any holiday pay because that's their part-time. So they will only get the hours that they work. And if we, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna ask the board that. Any other questions, but go ahead.
Well, one thing I was gonna say is if we did pay our part-time employees, it would be kind of like an extra incentive, the way it's currently written, because in one department, back in the Thanksgiving holiday, she had a full-time employee who normally would work, but this, Thanksgiving holiday, he couldn't. So the part-time people that she would normally reach out to, they really didn't want to. They did eventually because they were essential, so we had to have coverage, but I think she would have had more volunteers if they would have been getting paid holiday pay on top of the hours. So that's why we would like to recommend that we at least pay them holiday pay on top of the hours that they work. They kind of incentivize them.
That may be, Mr. Chairman, that may be related to what I was talking about, on Saturday. What happened, Mr. Gatewood, at, DNC. When we go in closed session, can I explain it to you then, please? Can we wait on this one till I explain something to him, please?
Yes, ma'am. Do I need to stay for that, or?
I think as long as we understand your, and I think basically your request is to be consistent throughout the county as far as part-time employees are
Yes,
concerned.
sir.
Yeah, I think that as long as we understand that, I don't know that you would, unless you just want to, I don't, hopefully, if anybody's got any questions, ask them now. And then we'll hear Ms. Sturtman in closed session, but we'll make that decision when we come out of closed session.
Okay. And if we need to revise, oh, sorry.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, I only have one question for Ms. Ingram, and that is, have you had a chance to review this with the department heads and discuss it with them?
Unfortunately, no, sir, we have not. And that's another reason why, if we would like to table this to January, I'm fine with that, but I want to go ahead and bring it for you tonight since we do have those upcoming holidays, because the way it's currently written, some part-time employees wouldn't get compensated for like the Christmas and the New Year's holiday. So that's one reason we're bringing this before you tonight. Because we didn't realize this was occurring until after the Veterans holiday, and we are having our department head meeting for that month at that time.
I would just interject this at this point, is that since there's other information needed and, it hadn't been, I guess, the people that need to know have not been involved in discussion, that we table it and actually make the decision at our January meeting. Okay. That'll be my recommendation, but if the board wants to move forward, I'm open. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Ingram, appreciate what you're doing.
All right. And then the last item that I have is in reference to the cost of living adjustment. I know last month, you had mentioned that would be effective January 1st, but that's the middle of a pay period. So what I'm here tonight to ask for is if we can back that up to the beginning of the pay period, which would be December the 26th, which would be for that January 14th payday.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion made to back the effective date of the increase to December the 26th, seconded by Commissioner Sturtman, Commissioner Mills. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried, it is unanimous.
Okay. And one more part in reference to the COLA, we also want to get the board input. We're not sure if you was aware, back when we did the cost of living in July, Manager Monroe had instructed that we only apply the COLA to the max end of our range versus the entire pay scale, which has kind of made it difficult in some departments for recruitment, because we're basically recruiting people at the same thing we were back in 2019. Out of, I want to say maybe 16 people that we've hired since July, we have 9 of them at their hiring. So we want to know, how did the board want us to apply it? Do you want to just do the same thing we did in July and just do it to the max range and leave the base where it's at, and then look at it for the next fiscal year, or apply the cost of living across the whole range?
Good question.
That's a long question.
Well,
I know, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I make $10,000 a year, I expect to get a 3.4% increase effective December 26th. If I make $20,000 a year, I expect to get a 3.4% increase on December 26th. So I don't know how you define that, but whatever the person makes, they should get a 3.4% increase would be my recommendation.
And this wouldn't affect the existing employees. This would be anybody new that we hired, as far as the range, as far as if we keep the base where it's at.
I'm thinking, since you mentioned that, Commissioner Gatewood, under the circumstances, what we were trying to accomplish, it would probably pay not do it the same way the 2.5% was done. Do it like you said, whatever you get 3.4%.
So straight across the range, increase everything?
Yes.
You just get it.
All right, well, thank you. That's
Okay.
all I needed tonight.
I guess, do we need to put that in the form of a motion, Ms.?
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Mims, seconded by Commissioner Sturdivant, that the 3.4%, I guess what we call it, COLA,
Yes.
would be across the board. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries, it is unanimous.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Okay, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at it. The 2022 Commissioners meeting schedule is on page 73 in your packet. And I have learned a very important lesson. I glanced at it last year, and we're meeting tonight on my birthday. So, this will not happen again. No, that's all right, I'm good. That's just what I gotta do. So, the only thing that I will point out, looks like everything is good, but the September meeting is on Tuesday, the 6th, which is right after Labor Day. And sometimes I'm out of town on that day. I would like to change that one to the following Monday, the 12th, if that works for everybody.
I prefer to have it on the 13th.
That's
Mr.
probably
Woodman.
Mr. Mims, because he's on the mental health board, and I know Mr. Commissioner Street always made mention of that.
Yeah, that's my meeting night.
That's your meeting night. Okay. Well, the 12th, I'll make it work.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. I shouldn't have mentioned that, but I'm just making that point, to pay attention when these meetings are. Like the other one, I don't think is a real issue, but at one point in time in the past, we as a board, like July the 4th, we're meeting on the 5th. Typically, that meeting of that week of the 4th is a heavy vacation week. And but if everybody wants to leave it there, I'm fine. Just pulling that out. I think that's why we really need to pay attention to the dates of our meetings when we're adopting the schedule for the upcoming year.
If we need a motion, I'll make it that we move the September meeting to the 12th.
Yeah, well, we need a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2022 with that change.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Gatewood, seconded by Commissioner Mims, that we approve the 2022 meeting schedule with the change of the September meeting to Monday, September 12th. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried, it is unanimous. The 2022 meeting schedule is adopted. Okay, item 8, the manager report. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Got a few items here. The first item is we need board approval for an agreement with Mcgill Engineering to do the construction management and supervision for the sludge removal project that was awarded to Bionomic last month, I believe it was. Because, you know, as the council knows, commissioners know the history of this project. This was never anticipated that we would have to remove the material and move it to another site. And because of that, there is no agreement in place with Mcgill for construction management. So we need this agreement so that they're there supervising Bionomic through this process.
Okay, and I think through our discussions, and I'm hoping with your discussions with them, they understand what we expect. And okay.
I think so, and Mr. Sessions is here tonight, and he fully understands that we want a close eye on this particular project.
And will they report to us periodically as it's being done?
We can certainly ask them to do that, yes, sir.
Okay, I think that's necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Sessions wants to say something.
I was just gonna say, it is a different company that's gonna be, we're fine. Bionomics is completely different. So.
I understand that, I just wanna make sure that everything goes
Right.
as planned as opposed to what happened the last time, regardless of what company is doing it. That's my thing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we engage Mcgill Engineering to supervise the sludge removal project.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Gatewood, seconded by Commissioner Sturdivant to, engage Mcgill Engineering to, oversee the, sludge removal. Any further discussion? All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. We have, one, opposed, one, and that's, Commissioner, Bricken. So the motion carries, 4-1. Okay.
The next item, Mr. Chairman, are the RFQs for the Highway 74 sewer extension project. The board had previously voted to use American Rescue Plan funding to pay for this project. Because those are federal funds, the county can't just go out and select an engineering firm. You have to go through an RFQ process, which we've done. We issued an RFQ. We had 2 engineering firms respond, Mcgill Engineering and LKC Engineering. We had 3 staff members that evaluated those so that you have some sort of objective and differences of opinion. Looking at those, Mr. Sessions was one of the evaluators. Wendell Small, who's our facility manager for Anson County, was one, and then Rodney Diggs was the third. And so the results of their evaluations are in your agenda package for both firms. They rated both firms very highly, so they felt that both firms were qualified to do the work. It's really at this point up to the board to select who you want to select. You can take into account the county staff evaluations and then all your own knowledge and so forth. Had there been a firm that was lower rated, then we would definitely make a recommendation the board should not select them. But in this case, I believe it's at the discretion of the board to select the firm.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to go with LKC.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Bricken, seconded by Commissioner Gatewood, that we go with, LKC Engineering to do the Highway 74 East Sewer project. Any further discussion?
And the 2 that was chosen was Mcgill and, LKC.
They were the 2 that responded to Ms. Sturdivant. Any engineering firm, we put it on our website, and we actually sent it out to 4 firms that had done work for the county or that we knew did this type of work, but only 2 responded, LKC and McGill. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I thought we had already said that we were giving it to McGill.
No, this is 2 separate.
Yeah, I know it's 2 separate things, but I thought.
No, we hadn't awarded this one. We had some discussion about it and we got cost on it, but as far as the engineering firm to oversee it, we had not selected it.
LKC was the firm that actually did the first step, the cost study related to it.
Yep.
But
I know.
But we had to go through this formal RFQ process because it's federal funds for y'all to select the
I
firm.
thought it was more favored for McGill though. I know LKC.
On the sludge removal, we talked about letting LKC do that as well, but I think McGill, because of their involvement with it and their, knowledge and all as far as the actual project and what needed to happen. Not everybody, I'll be honest with you, not everybody was real crazy about it, but under the circumstances, I think we voted to do that.
Of the LKQ?
No, McGill for the sludge removal.
Okay.
That's the only thing that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the only thing I know that we've awarded to McGill is the sludge removal. We've not awarded them anything else. And the LKC was pointed out by the county manager, they did do the cost study for the Highway 74 East Sewer project, just to get it down to McCray Road. And then I think they actually looked at some of the other communities out there as well. But now we need to award it to an engineering firm to oversee the actual project, and that's what this is for.
And Mr. Chairman, we have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir, we have a motion and the second. Any other discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the like sign? Okay, hearing none, it is unanimous, it is awarded to LKC Engineering. Okay, Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is a proposed revised record rotation service ordinance. We have received requests from two companies to allow them to have a second company on the rotation, and that is currently not allowed by our ordinance. And so we convened the record committee, and just for your information, I'll reiterate who's on that. Myself, Sheriff Reed, Rodney Diggs, 911 Director Holly Thomas, Wastewater Police Chief Spencer, and Wastewater Fire Chief Martin. And we met on November the 18th. We invited all of the record companies who are currently on the rotation list to attend, along with another company that is considering applying for the list. They all came, had an opportunity to express any concerns they had with the existing ordinance, the existing arrangement, any other concerns that they might have. There were a couple of operational concerns that were mentioned. And then after they expressed their concerns, the committee reviewed the State Highway Patrol record regulations, which do allow multiple companies from a same owner. And so the board, the committee, put together this draft that's before you tonight that would adopt a number of the Highway Patrol regulations and would allow a second record company from the same owner. However, there are strict stipulations that company, the second company, would have to have completely separate equipment, a completely separate facility, along with a number of other things. They couldn't. The intent is not to have one company just be on the list twice and kind of take, as Scott Forbes described it, take two bites out of the apple. This way, they have to make the investments equal to two companies to be on the list, and so that would be allowed under the recommendation from the committee before you tonight. Happy to answer any questions if I can.
Okay, I think it's been explained very well, so
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the committee that worked on this.
okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Gatewood, seconded by Commissioner Sturtevant, to accept the recommendation from the committee on the record rotation service ordinance. And just as a reminder, this is the action we have to take that Commissioner Mims has recused himself from because of a conflict of interest. So, all in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the like sign. Okay, hearing none, it is approved. Four votes with Commissioner Mims recusing himself.
Mr. Chairman, I have an item that I've added to the manager's report, if I could.
Go right ahead.
This is on behalf of Mr. Forbes, who could not be here tonight. The board will recall that about 3 months or so ago, I think, you approved signing on to the North Carolina opioid settlement, the opioid litigation settlement. And that gives us, we will have a share of the proceeds from that settlement. Going alongside that, there was different litigation, and the county had actually, many months ago, signed on to a national lawsuit with an attorney to pursue litigation, and that is the Janssen J&J National Opioid Settlement. And that has now been settled, and they are asking people who have been a part of that to sign on to that. This will enable the county to get additional funds to fight drug addiction and to be used for those programs. And Scott is recommending that the board approve us signing on to the national settlement and to authorize me to sign that. And so that's the recommendation from Mr. Forbes as well as myself.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Mims, seconded by Commissioner Gatewood, Commissioner Sturtevant, to approve the national opioid settlement. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried, it is unanimous. Okay, as far as the chairman's report, the only thing that I'll mention is, just for information, and it's coming from Rocky River RPO and North Carolina Department of Transportation, that a bridge on Highway 742 North over Richardson Creek is scheduled to be replaced. They'll start the preliminary work in 2022, which is getting right away and that type of stuff. And the project's actually, construction's planned for 2023. And this is in Anson County. It's just before you get to the Union County line. The only other thing I was going to mention, and Representative Brody's already touched on that, I attended the NCACC General Government Steering Committee meeting this afternoon, and there was a lot of discussion about broadband. That's what it was all about, and they were talking about the money that's available and encouraging counties that have problems with broadband to go after this money. And I need to get with Mr. Allen, because I don't still quite understand the situation we're in with our project with the consultant and PD Electric. So I didn't really ask a whole lot of questions about that, but we need to stay in contact with the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. Okay, that brings us down to commissioner concerns, petitions, announcement, and comments. First one is Landfill Citizens Advisory Committee. No.
We were gonna look into renewing that Citizens Advisory Committee. I think we were gonna look into asking the ones that were on the committee whether they'd like to continue. And then I think, we wanna follow the guidelines that are in the contract to make sure that that committee exists and meets according to the, schedule.
Okay, they do meet, that has been determined, but I guess Mr. Allen can, further follow up on this.
They, I think, as I understand it, they were meeting fairly consistently, and they haven't met since the spring.
Okay.
And we have provided you with a list of the members of that committee previously, I believe.
Yeah, we got that. So I guess the next thing will be just determine who on that committee wants to continue to serve and who doesn't, and that way that we can replace the ones that don't want to serve.
So,
and I guess the other thing too, based on what Commissioner Bricken's saying, is they need to get back to their, whatever their meeting schedule should be.
So would you like for Ms. Cannon and I to reach out to the current members to see who still has an interest in continuing? Is that what you'd like for us to do?
Yes, sir.
There's at least a couple that expressed that they don't want to continue or are unable to continue.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay, water wastewater system study. Mr. Brigham, I think that's you also.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up. There won't be any need for funding from us at this time, but talking with Raleigh and talking with the state, I think we're all aware that there'll be more infrastructure funding coming in the next year or two for especially things like drinking water and wastewater than there's ever been in the history of the state of North Carolina. And a lot of the other counties are already starting to process their needs analysis. They're already getting ready for procurement of grant money. They're doing everything they can to put together packages for that potential funding that we think. So what my request at this point would be that we would do a request for qualifications to get an engineering firm to come in and do a condition assessment of both our wastewater and drinking water plants in their entirety, and not just to fix a valve or some little broken part, along the way, but look at the entire infrastructure of those two systems, because they have life expectancies, not just the repair needs, but replacement needs. And if that engineering firm were to come in, study those two plants, look at the infrastructure, decide what the best case scenario would be to get us up to speed in both drinking water and wastewater, and then that same engineering firm would then go after the grant money, because they're in that same package in their ability to look for procurement of grant money to go after the funding to pay for those upgrades. And that RFQ the names that you could bring back to the commission, then the commission could look at them together and decide if the scope of work that the RFQ creates and the objective of what we're looking at to bring our county up to speed, if the commissioners are all happy with it, then we could then vote as a team and just get those proposals back to us. I'd like to see it by the next meeting, but with Christmas and New Year's, I don't know if that would be realistic, but if we were to post them, the 4 engineer firms that we used to get the last RFQs from, maybe that would be ones that we could contact again. But as soon as possible, because this grant money, as it becomes available and as people get it, that's going to be less grant money that we'd be eligible for. So I just want to make that motion that we do the RFQs for those projects of drinking water and wastewater, condition assessments in their entirety, and needs analysis, and then the funding that they would go after with the grants.
Okay, and you making that in the form of a motion?
I'm making it in the form of a motion that we get the RFQs from those engineers firms to study our needs so we can put them together in the form of grants that they would actually submit.
Okay, you've heard the motion, is there a second?
Do we have a cost for what they're gonna charge to do this?
There won't be a cost. This is just to find out what it would take to get the information together and then put it out for a grant, because we can't go after grant money. We can't go after grant money unless we're specific. We can't go after grant money generally. We have to have specifics. We have to look into, we've got pipes that are breaking on the highway all the time. We've got a drinking water plant that has lots of needs. I've taken a tour of it myself. The wastewater treatment plant where some of the secondary systems are being used because the primaries are down. We have a lot of needs. We have a huge amount of needs in those systems. All I'm asking in this grant is that we do a condition assessment of the 2 plants, find out what an engineering firm would recommend as us getting up to speed, both replacing broken parts and upgrading the system, and also things that are aged out. I mean, these pipes and all, they have a life expectancy. If you look up anything about drinking water and wastewater treatment plants, they average about 40 years before they're replaced, and we're at that age now. And if we wait until everything breaks down after all this grant money's gone, just because we're trying to get a year or 2 more out of these systems, I think we're making a mistake. So I'm just asking that we do a really good study of the 2 plants, find out drinking water and wastewater treatment, what do we need, and then move forward with seeking grant money to replace and repair whatever they determine.
To the
I guess,
question that.
go ahead.
The question that Commissioner Mills said, he asked would there be a cost, and you said there wouldn't be one.
Not just in,
yes it would.
just in requesting.
That would do it for free.
No, I'm just making a motion that we request the qualification for this so we can review it and see what these engineers recommend. That'll have a cost if they move forward, but we just need to find out if the recommendation is something that we want to pursue.
Yeah, you put the RFQ out there and see if anybody responds, and the ones that respond, once you look at what their qualifications are, then there will be a cost for them to do that work.
But they put together a scope of work, and then we can look at the scope of work and say, hey, this looks like something that we want, or no, it's not what we want. Or maybe we could say, adjust it to create something that we want. But unless we get started on this, we're going to be behind all these other counties. And there's been a certain amount of concern that we're not going after this grant money, or not even in the process of going after it. And so I think we need to I mean, when you do grants, you have to be specific about the needs, and the more professionally written they are, and the more they address the actual need, the more competitive we'll be. And we know we need to have those systems fixed. We know our infrastructure is in horrible shape.
But for them to come out, we don't have an estimated cost of what they're gonna charge to even do the study.
We won't have that.
That's what the RFQ is for, to get them to give that to us, and then we can look at it as the commission and decide if we wanna move forward with it.
Or once
Yeah, I'm not asking for, at this point in my motions, not seeking any funding from the county. It's only seeking those requests for qualifications from the engineering firms that would be interested in doing that project. Then they put that together, and then all of us together can decide if we wanna move forward with it, and it'll have cost. It can be broken down by cost, the qualifications, who's the most qualified to do it, of course, we'd wanna know. And then we could, look at it as a commission and decide, hey, if they break it down A, B, C, D, well, we'd like to move forward with A and B. We don't even have to take it exactly the way it is. We can actually meet, negotiate, and talk about what we'd like to do. But we can't do these grants on our own.
I think that, you know, it will be a good first step, because, we do need to know, and I think Ms. Monroe had started on a, capital improvement plan that included water and sewer. Matter of fact, he put it together and actually had, rates that needed to be charged over the next number of years. But like you said, we would need, I guess, more in detail, what the cost could be. And the first step would be what these engineering firms would be, or what are they gonna charge to do that study and give us that information. And I guess at that point we decide how to move forward with it. But the other thing of it too is, that you kinda alluded to, and Representative Brody, touched on it some while he was here. And I know he's I think you've had conversations with him. I've had a conversation about, he has a real interest in our wastewater treatment and highly effluent wastewater. In other words, it's a lot cleaner when it comes out of the plant than it is now. And that's one of the things that he says that he would like to see Anson County get that, so he can use us as an example. Of course, there again, I think there's a lot of other things that go with that we'd have to find out. But there's gonna be money available, which everybody's gonna be after. And if we're in a position where we already know what we need to do to get there, with what you're saying, engineering study, the cost and all that kind of stuff, we could put in for that money. Whereas if we've got to do all that, money could be gone by the time we get through.
And the same engineering firm can do the grant writing. I mean, just from checking in general, the ones that do the needs analysis, the condition assessment, they put that into the form of the grant proposals, and then they go after the money for us, and they know the buzzwords, and they know where the money's at, so that's their profession. So it's a combination that includes them actually writing the grants.
Okay, we've got the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Mims. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
My only question is, what information do we currently have? Because I know our former county manager spent a lot of money on the capital improvement plan that encompassed both wastewater, as I recall, as well as the water department. And that was just within the last 24 months that was completed.
I could dig it out somewhere. I saw some spreadsheets on that. I'm not sure who all was involved with the how he got the figures that he came up with. And I think that was part of his plan, was to go further into it and get those costs. Let's do this then. If you withdraw your motion, you withdraw your second. We'll instruct the county manager to see what he can find as far as the supporting data for what Ms. Monroe put together. I'll dig through my records and see if I can find it.
And I do have a copy. Mcgill prepared that report. I think it was an update from a previous Hobbs and Church report, and then they updated it. So I can provide a copy to all the board members of that report.
Did that include water and sewer?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And all of that can be added too, if we decide next month to go forward with the request for Rfqs, because I will withdraw if that's what y'all suggest. But that information that we have doesn't mean they can't use that too to bring us further along. I mean, that would probably be the first thing they'd want to see is the recent studies.
Yeah, that's all we're saying is, if there's work already been done, money already been spent, let's see what we got for what's already been spent, so we know what we need to do from there. I think that's basically what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, and I support what Mr. Bricken is saying 100%. I just want to make sure we don't duplicate the effort and pay twice for the same sort of information.
I agree. That was the reason for my recommendation. So at this time, we will.
Okay, so I'll withdraw, and then Manager Allen can find out what's in there. And if we decide to move forward with it, we can just make sure in the RFQ that we allow them to know there is existing data that they need to incorporate into their findings.
Okay, all right, so the motion and the second is withdrawn, and then, okay, we'll move on. Next item is the, Caraway Foundation funding request, and remember, that came in at our November meeting, and, we discussed that on, Saturday when we were doing the, interviews for county manager, and I believe the decision of the board at that time is that we would not, we would not approve this request because we're not in a position to support all the requests we get from nonprofits. And, I know do we need to go on the record and say that, or do we need to make it official with a motion? Motion, okay. Are you making a motion? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Mims, seconded by Commissioner Sturtevant, that we do not fund the Caraway Foundation request. Any further discussion?
Could we make the motion or any other?
Yeah, that's what I just meant.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any other nonprofit.
So you'll amend your motion to say, well, I say just say nonprofits in general, Caraway Foundation in particular as far as their request is concerned?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, we have motion by Commissioner Mims, seconded by Commissioner Sturtevant. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried, it is unanimous. Okay, and next is Commissioner Gate would like to have an update on the 2020 census challenge. I don't know if
I have a little bit of information, not a lot. I've been in discussions with Geraldine Gardner, who's the executive director of TROD, the Central Iowa Regional Council. And they are looking into that to see if they can assist member governments with that. And so she's supposed to get back to me to let me know if they can. If not, we'll have to look elsewhere. But I've also asked her if they can't do it, do they know any other planning resources or firms that might do that? So she is going to get back, or she's indicated she will get back to me on that. So I'll definitely try to have something for the January agenda with some more details on that. A number of local governments are looking into this, trying to consider whether to go ahead with it or not. So I think if the board decides to go ahead with it, I think we will find someone who could assist with it.
Okay.
But it may not be Central Iowa, they may not be able to, because they haven't done this exactly. They've got the mapping resources and the GIS resources, but they've not done this specific thing because, you know, it only comes up every 10 years. So, but I'll try to have something in January.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. Okay, that takes care of all of our regular business, and this time we do have a closed session for personnel under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, parentheses A, parentheses 6, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, condition of appointment of a public officer or employee. So we need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Gateway and Sturtevant to go into closed session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. It is unanimous. We are in closed session. Thank everybody for being here tonight. Okay.
Open session.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the part-time position as recommended by Ms. Jackson.
I second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gateway, seconded by Commissioner Sturtevant to approve the temporary part-time position requested by Ms. Jackson. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carried. It is unanimous. The temporary part-time position for DSS is approved. Okay, the fiscal accountability agreement between Anson County and Local Government Commission.
I'll make a motion that we approve it and we sign off on it.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sturtevant, seconded by Commissioner Mims to approve the fiscal accountability agreement between Anson County and Local Government Commission and sign off on it. And in further discussion, all in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, it is unanimous. It is approved. And the last thing is the change in grade for the Assistant Finance Director from grade 71 to grade 75.
Mr. Chairman, I will make the motion that we increase that position to salary grade 75 and deliver a 7.5% pay raise. We talked about 5 and 10, a 7.5% pay raise.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I would second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Bricken. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. It is unanimous. Okay. I believe that brings us to the end of everything we need to do for tonight. Appreciate everybody's involvement and focus in getting us through this. It's a long meeting, but we thank you. And at this time, we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Sturman, seconded by Commissioner Gatewood to adjourn. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.